Alright, so assignment 59, number 4. You got the blue and the orange equation. It's a system of equations. I could solve it by graphing. I hate to graph, I'm not going to do that. I could solve it by elimination, but in this case, the lesson's on substitution. So I am going to do just that. I'm going to substitute. So step 1 is to solve for a variable in one equation. So the first thing I do is I go hunting for the variable that is the easiest to solve for. And the easiest one is the y in the orange equation because it doesn't have a coefficient, so all I have to do is add 6x to both sides of the equation. And I have, in fact, solved for, oh, far out, they scored another one. I'm watching the A's game, so if you get any editorials about a baseball game, it's the Sunday afternoon A's game. So I'm going to solve this for y, and all I have to do is add 6x to both sides of the equation. So let's go ahead and do that. We have negative 6x plus y is equal to negative 8. And I'm going to go ahead and add 6x to both sides. That's an add and an add 6x. Cool. And when I do that, right, I end up with the equation y is equal to 6x plus 8. So that's the end of step 1, guys. That's all I have to do in step 1. Remember, this is a 4-step process, and there's step 1. Y is equal to 6x plus 8. So I'm going to go ahead and take that one, and now I'm going to go ahead and do step 2.
That's great.
So in this case here, guys, just really quickly, I had a little bit of a mind slip here. This is a minus 8 here, and I had written plus 8, so this should be a minus 8 there. So plus negative 8, that'll work. Okay, so step 2 is the substitution. So I'm going to substitute this. I'm going to substitute this 6x minus 8 for y in this equation here. So that's what I'm doing. So let's go ahead. I'm going to choose a different colored pen. So I'll go back to my blue. So my original equation is 6y plus 4x is equal to 12. And I'm going to substitute, once again, this for y. So that's going to give me,
3 pitches in the 5th inning.
that's going to give me 6 times, and where I have y, I'm going to make that substitution. So I'm going to write 6x minus 8 plus 4x is equal to 12. And now all I'm going to do is that takes care of step 2.
You got a lot of it.
So let's go ahead and do
Might have gotten all of
step
it.
3. Alright, so step 3 is written out for you. We're going to solve the equation. So I substitute where I had y. I made that substitution and now I solve. So I distribute and I get, 36x, and then negative 6 times negative 8 gives me a positive 48. There's my 4x is equal to 12. I collect up my like terms, so I'm going to put a square around both my x terms. And 36 and 4 gives me 40, so I have 40x plus 48 is equal to 12. I'm going to now subtract 48 from both sides, and that gives me this right here. 40x is equal to 60. I divide both sides by 40, and I get x is equal to 6/4. And when I simplify that, finally, I get x is equal to 3/2. So ends step 3. We have one more step to solve. Alright, so step 4, remember we solved and we got x is equal to 3/2. Step 4 says substitute 3/2 for x into the other equation. So our equation was that orange one, which said that negative 6x plus 4 is equal to negative 8. So I'm going to take negative 6, and where I have x, I'm going to make that substitution. I'm going to substitute 3/2 plus 4 is equal to negative 8. That gives me negative 18 over 2 plus, you know what, that's not a 4, that's a y. I wrote sloppy. Plus y is equal to negative 8. So that gives me negative 9 plus y is equal to negative 8. I add 9 to both sides. And I get y is equal to 1. So my answer is the ordered pair 3/2, comma, 1. And now I'm going to verify that equation. And so to verify it, I'm going to substitute 3/2 and 1 into the other equation. So let's go ahead and take a look here. So the other equation was 6y plus 4x is equal to 12. So let's go ahead and make that substitution. So that's going to give us 6 times 1 plus 4 times 3/2 is equal to 12. So that gives us 6 plus 12 over 2 is equal to 12. And that gives us 6 plus 6 is equal to 12. So sure enough, it checked. And therefore, this must be the answer to my simultaneous equations. All right, guys, so that takes care of this one. So let's go ahead and try another problem. All right, this is number 8. So I have the blue equation, the red equation, and step 1 is the same as it always is. Solve for a variable in one equation. Well, in this case, I actually would solve this by substitution because it's done for me. X, they solved for x for me, so that's sweet and easy. And now I can move on to step 2. So step 2, we're going to substitute negative 3y, that's a y, for x in the blue equation. So let's go ahead and do that. So we have 3y plus x is equal to negative 1. When we make the substitution, we get 3y plus, and here's our substitution now, negative 3y is equal to negative 1. So we're going to move on, and we're going to do step, so that was step 2. Let's go ahead and do step 3. Step 3 is solve the equation with only one variable. So in this case here, it's this equation right here that only has one variable. So let's go ahead and solve that. We get 3y plus negative 3y is equal to negative 1. Well, that gives us 0 is equal to negative 1. And we say to ourselves, what? Just like that. And the answer is this never happens. So there's no solution. All right, so let's go ahead and just do a quick little graph of these two equations and verify that in fact there is no solution, okay? You guys are excited, I know. One more page, here I go. All right, now just to prove that in fact I was right, I'm going to graph these for you and show you that they don't intersect. So I'm going to take them and write them in slope-intercept form. So let's go ahead and start with the blue one. So in slope-intercept form, it means we want y by itself. So we're going to subtract x from both sides of the equation. That's going to give us a negative 3y is equal to negative x minus 1. I divide everybody by negative 3. And that's going to give me y is equal to, oh no, I'm dividing by positive 3. There we go. Make all those positive real quick. And that gives us negative 1/3 x minus 1/3. Therefore, I have a y-intercept of negative 1/3 and a slope of negative 1/3. So I'm going to come down here. There's my y-intercept just about right there, right? 1/3. And then I'm going to go down 1/3, down 1/3, and I get a line that does something like that. And if I take a look at this one in the red here, I'm going to get, divide everybody by -3, and that's going to give me negative 1/3 x is equal to y. And let's go ahead and flip it and say y is equal to negative 1/3 x. And then let's put a +0 just to remind us that that's our y-intercept. So our y-intercept is 0. And our slope is negative 1/3. So there's our y-intercept. We're going to go down 1/3, down 1/3, and I get this red line right here. And you can see those lines are in fact parallel. And just to remind you, parallel means they have the same slope and different y-intercepts. And sure enough, that's what we have. Same slope, different y-intercepts, so we're done. Alright guys, that's the end of the video. I am going to ask you, particularly tomorrow on Tuesday, how do I know if two equations that I solved by substitution have no solution? And the answer would be that I get an untrue statement like 0 is equal to -1. Alright, so I'm going to ask you something along those lines on Tuesday. Until then, have fun doing your math.